We know that apartments have had struggles for the past 3 years in Nashville. Well, now that's starting to bleed over into the condo market. Let me show you what I mean. And first, let's just look at what's for rent right now. It's just, there's so many for rent in downtown Nashville. Let me just zoom in and you can see what I mean. Look at this, 379, 155, 22, 39. I mean, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of units all across from each other. And we can see with our CoStar data, let's just go 3 years out. It's actually incredible when you see this chart. It's so unbelievable. You can see that rents have been steadily dropping every single year. By the way, this is multifamily, not single family. I do think single family has been much more stable, but rents have been dropping every single year. The lows have been getting lower, the highs have been getting lower. We're now in kind of the spring trend where rents start bumping up and everybody goes, look, rents are finally increasing. We'll see. And now people are starting to come up with contingency plans. They built towers to rent, and now they're converting them to condos. Enter my shadow inventory tweet. This was actually originally supposed to be apartments, and they listed it as condos. Now, there were so many apartments they had to list it as condos, and there are so many condos for sale that they're actually not even listing these. They're privately listing them. I say private. I mean, they're available for sale. They're just not being listed on the MLS, which is interesting. And the point is that this is creating shockwaves through the Nashville condo market. Now, you may think, oh, it's a disaster for the Emory. But the truth is that if the Emory can pull off what they're trying to do, it's actually going to be very successful for them. They're going to be able to sell condos, 312 condos for $500,000+ per unit. They're in the best location in Nashville. They're luxury style, very nice with great amenities. And then they can offload one of their towers, which they don't need because they're leasing up the other one with massive competition. And so they can end up making a lot of money, deleveraging, working with their bank, which is probably not super happy about this. But what they do is they send ripples through the condo market. Let me show you a few examples. So this right here is just the condos in Nashville. Look at all the resale condos for sale. There's so many groups of all these resale condos for sale, and they're all just sitting. Let's zoom in on 1212. Now, the reason I'm zooming in on 1212 is because the Emory, which is listing, is right here. Okay, so we're in downtown. You can see this is Broadway. The Emory is right here, walking distance from Broadway. Not listed at all, but just down here, we see the Pullman also did the same thing. They had a tower that was intended to be apartments. Now they're converting them to condos, and you can see they actually at least listed some, $350,000 for a 562 square foot unit. Think about the massive pressure. Brand new building, luxury amenities. Think about the massive pressure it's putting on these condo complexes that have been around for a while. And you can see, look at all the ones for sale, but let's see what it's doing to price. Look at this, base price $418. Are they going to be able to pull it off? Let's see what it's doing to price. I'm on my Nashville real estate data tracker here. We're going to go to 1212, the one we were just looking at, just south of Pullman. You can see that inventory shot up right when Pullman announced, hey, we're going to convert these to condos. They've been high ever since, massive price cuts. Let's look at price. Price has been tanking since 2023. $900 a foot is where it peaked. Actually peaked in Q2 of 22, over $1,000 a foot. But you can see this is annual median price right here. 900 a foot, now down to 776. This is a solid 15% drop in value for 1212. We come down here and you can see it a lot better. These are going to be your larger units, the nicer units, actually holding their own much better. If we take our size category, you pull off the largest units, you can see that it much more clearly shows a down market. And even if you pull off the second to largest units, you can see it's just basically crashing. So the smallest units in these condo buildings are just absolutely getting obliterated. Look at all the listings. The listings are all below where they were selling for in 2024. And they're continuing to compete on price. They're continuing to fall. And they're likely going to fall until they get a competitive price against the Pullman. And the Pullman's at $350 for a 500 square foot unit. These are going to be a little bit larger, but you know what? they're also much, much older. These 1212 units were built over 10 years ago. So condos around these are the ones that are going to get really, really trounced. I mean, I'm talking about trounced. Now let's go over to Wortham Lofts. This was another one that got just absolutely hammered. Where am I at here? Okay, Wortham Lofts. Let's look at price. Price here, you can see very clearly just absolutely tanking. When we look at size category, the smallest ones are the ones that got the absolute most pain, going from one selling for $700 a foot now down to $500 a foot. That's a $200 a foot off of 700. That's like 35, 40% drop in home value. I mean, if you put 20% down in 2022, you've lost your entire down payment. Painful. Now we've got 3 listed here. Maybe there's some recovery, but with what's going on in the Emory and the Pullman, those are pretty close competitors, but they are in a different part of downtown Nashville. Maybe they can pull it off and the prices are stabilizing. If you have a condo facing the pool and you've got to be over 800 square feet, he does not want one of the tiny units. Look, they've held up so much better. Nonetheless, if you want to sell one of your larger condos and you're in Wortham Lofts facing the pool, reach out to me. Now, is this impacting single family? By the way, I did a $2 million plus video, my California videos. I said that a lot of people buying $2 million plus houses, there's going to be a huge demand from LA. Turns out there was. We started to see it in the middle of February, and then it just started tracking with 2024, and now it's starting to soften compared to 2024. The $2 million market is actually softer today than it was last year. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe we're not going to get a big boon from LA fires, although we did see some LA fire migration. It's certainly not holding up the demand for the market, at least right now. Now, I'll give it a year before I truly say I was wrong on that. But right now, I'm yellow trending red on my forecast of getting a big boon for the $2 million housing market. Not the greatest sign. Now, if we go to on my Nashville real estate data site, I added the daily charts. I said I would do this a couple weeks ago. If you click on daily charts and you don't have to subscribe, but you do have to sign up, you can see these update daily, active listings and contract volume. This is what I track daily on the single family side to see where inventory is going. And here you can see that we've got another big move up, not as big as last week. But what's interesting about this is that this move up 781 to 7,086 to 7181, 95 up. If we go back to last year, we only went up about 34 in the same week last year. What this tells me is that our growth in inventory is much higher than last year, even though we're seeing some of the same dynamics play out. Now, one of the reasons we didn't get as much growth is because contract volume popped. We're now flat year over year for contract volume. This is a positive sign, in my opinion, but it's flat. I actually expect it to be positive through April. Now, why do I expect contract volume to be positive? Demand's actually going to be year over year positive in April. Well, because we've seen pretty consistently that mortgage rates are lower than they were last year. And in April, rates actually popped pretty high. So I think we could run positive contract volume for the rest of the spring. And that might mute some of the growth we're seeing here, although it's still growing much faster than it did last year. I should probably do an active listing forecast and just model it based on what I'm seeing, growth versus this year versus last year, just to see what it could look like. That would be interesting. Maybe I'll do that. Prices, well, we did see a positive increase in median contract price. This tells me that April is going to be flat to negative. I thought pretty sure we were going to be negative, but now I still think we'll be negative, but less so than what I thought a week ago. Even though contract price is flat to where it was last year, price cuts as a percentage of active listings are higher than they were last year. Now, even though price cuts as a percentage of active listings aren't growing yet, look at this price cut chart. Why is it growing big time, but the percentage of active listings is not? We're getting so much more new listings. This tells me that we're going to have a softer spring. Final sales price is going to be much lower than contract price relative to where it was last year. So even if median contract price is flat, I would expect us to have a softer spring. I'm going to guess 2 to 3% down on the median price. Right now, that's my guess, 2 to 3% lower for April, and then May could be even softer. We'll see. Right now, it's just going to be soft. This doesn't mean it's soft everywhere. When we look at our map, we can see that there are green areas and there are red areas. And there are also still delusional sellers. I don't know what else to call them, but there are sellers like this market right here, Brentwood Country Club, super nice area, very strong, one of the best locations in Nashville, but zero motivation to sell, even though there are 6 active listings and 0 under contract right now. This area has got 0 buyers for it, has not had a contract this year, and these sellers seem very unmotivated to actually sell their house, which is kind of entertaining, but also aggravating because I have buyers that would buy it for fair market value, but they're just not willing to overpay. And that's really what's happening in this market. If you broaden out, they're just overpriced for the market. That's why nothing's going under contract there. Now we'll see. Like I said, it's one of the best locations in Nashville. So we'll see what happens there. There's not a lot of motivation. Site-built houses that are priced high and are looking for price growth have been very strong. Single family is just not as bad as multifamily. It's not as bad as condos, townhouses. Talked to an LP this week that lost 100% of their investment because of the townhouse complex that they were part of. Couldn't make it work. They were cash flow negative, tried to rent some of the units out while they waited. And now they essentially got to the point where they were like, we can't continue to subsidize this. And so you can either reinvest and we'll try to get you a return on that, or we can all hang it up. I mean, maybe they go to foreclosure. I don't know. I mean, at some point, the math just isn't mathing on these, and it's really hitting the townhouse space hard. Townhouses getting hit hard in a lot of areas. If you're thinking about buying a townhouse, I'd be very careful. This is not a market I would overpay in because there is a high chance that prices could drop, but that doesn't mean they will drop. I'm not telling you they will drop. I don't know if they will drop. The hard data, all we know, active listings are skyrocketing. Price is basically stable right now, flat to negative, but basically stable. Will the back half of this year be a disaster? I don't know. It just depends. I mean, what if we get Sunday night announcement from the Fed or a Sunday night announcement from Trump? Could send it going either way. It's very hard to tell where prices go. So with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday. Have a good week.